Okay, so in our last video, we were dealing with multiplying two binomials together. And if you remember, a binomial is two terms multiplied by another two terms. Well, look how many terms we have here. 1, 2, and 3. This is called a trinomial. And factoring a trinomial is a lot like, I guess, factoring a number where, let's say you had the number 24, and I said to factor it. Well, could you come up with two numbers that multiply to make 24? Well, you'd say, well, there's actually a bunch of options, but one of the answers is, let's see, 24, let's say 2 times 12. Those numbers, when you multiply them together, you get 24. Okay, so 2 times 12. You can put them in brackets if you want without this symbol in the middle, and that means 2 times 12, which is 24. Notice how there's brackets around them. Well, we're going to do the same thing here today with this, except for we are going to come up with two binomials in each of these brackets that will multiply to become this trinomial. Okay, so we're doing the opposite of multiplying them like we did in the last lesson. We're going to break them down or factor them. Okay, so we can verify, or you can verify actually, that we've done them right just by multiplying our answers out and see what you get. Okay, so this is how you start off with this. First thing you do is you look at each one of these terms. There's 3 of them, right? And you say, is there anything that's, is there an x in each of them? No. Is there a number that's the same in each of them? Like, let's say they were all even numbers. You could divide by what's called the greatest common factor. And if you had a situation like that, but no, we don't have any greatest common factors here at all. So what you're going to do is you're going to go, okay, you're going to throw an x right there and there. X times x is going to be x squared. So that's how you start this off. But here's the tricky part. Here's how you deal with this and this. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of, where's my eraser? I'm going to get rid of this so that we have some room to see what's going on. Okay. For the 36, you have to come up with two numbers that if you multiply them together, you get 36. Okay? So something times something is going to give us 36. Okay? And over here, the middle term, let's say we picked a times b is 36. Whatever you pick for a and b, you're going to have to add them up. When you add those same numbers up, you're going to have to come up with 15. Okay? So this is where it gets a little tricky. Let's see. I'm going to pick a good color here. Alright, so let's start with, do the multiplying first. Is there two numbers that you can think of that multiply to make 36? Well, 2 times 18 is 36. Okay? So then ask yourself, okay, that's fine. But with these numbers, if you added them up, is 2 plus 18 15? It's not. You don't have to stick with plus either. You can say, what about 18 minus 2? Well, that's 16. So we're trying to come up with 15 when you add or subtract. So this 2 and 18 are just not going to work. So let's see, what about 3 times, and you have to know your times tables a bit here, or use a calculator, okay? So 3 times 12. What's 3 times 12? Well, that's 36. That works perfectly right here. But can you put 3 and 12 together somehow to make 15? Well, sure enough, 12 plus 3 is 15, okay? So remember, you're allowed to have minus signs if you need to here, as long as you can end up getting something times something is 36, and the same thing plus the same thing is 15, okay? So in this case, 3 and 12 work perfectly, so I'm going to write them in. Doesn't really matter what order. You could put the 12 there, or the 3 there, or vice versa. And then remember to get your signs right. 3 plus 12 is 15. And remember, positive 3 times positive 12 will give us that 36. So we're done this question. We have just factored and come up with two binomials that multiply to get this trinomial up here. And I'm not going to ask you to check it right now, but you certainly could. You're going to be doing these questions on the Khan Academy after this little video just to practice and make sure you understand how to do it, okay? So let's just keep moving on for now. But remember, you could always verify this just by multiplying it all out using FOIL. Okay, next question. All right, this is going to be a little quicker. Is there any greatest common factor here? Is there something that's the same that we could divide by in all of them? Like, is there an x in each one? No. Is there a... If there was a 5 in the front here, you could divide them all by 5, but there's no 5 in the front here. So what you do is you just say, okay, let's start drawing our two binomials here. Here's our two brackets. The easy part is just the front one. X times x is going to be x squared. And the trickier part is, what times what is 25? So something times something is going to be 25. Okay, well, what do you think? Well, the first thing that pops in my head is 5 times 5. But do 5 times 5, if you add them together, do you get the middle term? Well, not quite. We actually end up needing to go negative 5, and you're allowed to do this. Negative 5 times negative 5. Does that give you positive 25? It does. That's cool. What about negative 5 plus negative 5? Will that give you negative 10? It does. So what you do is you go, okay, we've got it here. Okay, and you can verify this using FOIL if you want to, but remember, negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25, and negative 5 plus negative 5 will give you negative 10. And you've come up with the two things that you need to do in order for this to work, okay? So we have just factored a trinomial here. Okay? One more little note, okay? If you get a situation like this, it's not a trinomial. If you wanted to, you could put a plus 0 on the end, but to make it a trinomial. But what we should really do is quickly look and say, is there something that's the same in both of these that we could factor out? And if you look closely, there's an x here and an x here. So what you do is you say, okay, well, we've got a common factor. This is called the greatest common factor. And there is an x with each of these terms here. Then put a bracket, and whatever's on the inside, you're going to multiply by that x to see if you come up with x squared minus 7x. Here's what I mean. X times what will make x squared? That's right. X times x is x squared. And then keep going along. We've got a negative sign here, so let's put a negative sign. X times what will give us 7x? Well, it's just 7, right? Try it out. If you were to expand this and do the opposite, x times x is x squared, and x times negative 7 is negative 7x, and you're done. You know you got this right. Okay, I just had to add this quick note on the end because I noticed there's a couple questions on your worksheet. They're going to try and hit you with one of these, okay? So get that greatest common factor. Sometimes they call it the GCF, the greatest common factor. Get it on the outside of the brackets, and then on the inside, tell me what's left over. If you multiply it all out, you should get the original thing. In this case, the original binomial at the top here. Okay? Hope that helps. Thanks.